I'm Hadeel. I am the UK ambassador for the End FGM EU network. These ladies, they don't know what I'm talking about, but they will soon. They will soon. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Stacey.
I'm Meena.
I'm Khadija.
Nice.
Well, all uni students to start with, but I think we became a lot closer because of a podcast that we've recently started releasing. We're all like closer because of the Workness Podcast, which has recently been launched. So Workness is spelled W-O-C-ness, so women of colour, primarily talking about women of colour issues and what we go through day to day, and sort of reflecting on our backgrounds as well, and sort of bringing in our own little, 2 cents on different issues and sort of talking about it like that. But yeah, I think that's how we've come to, we've decided to support Hadeel on this project because we've already...
We love her.
We do love you, but also because we've all sort of had these conversations before, and we're very comfortable to talk about these things, and it's very important. So, yeah.
So articulate.
Yeah.
Wow.
She said spokesperson. She said PR.
She did.
In terms of like having conversations regarding FGM and sexual and gender-based violence, I thought that my lovely friends are the best people to talk to because not only are they articulate, but they're also very opinionated, and I think that in terms of all of our experiences, we have so much to draw from. So it's like, just a little gal pal conversation, because I feel like when it comes, I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to like talking about like sexual gender-based violence, FGM, like when it doesn't really come up in like conversation unless it's like you're being taught about it or like, I don't know, like you hear something in the news or something like that, and it's like it never... I mean, it is quite hard for it to like come up naturally in conversations, but I think that is also a big reason as to why it is a taboo.
Yeah.
Female Genital Mutilation.
There we go.
The practice is happening here, yes, and there is more acknowledgement. But I think there's an issue where it's othered. Even then, it's
Absolutely.
like that's not us. Like you deal with that over there. Like let the legal side deal with that. But it's a conversation that needs to be brought into like society. Like
The definition of FGM is the non-medical practice where there is cutting or mutilation of female's genitalia, and I think the non-medical is like a very, very key part in it, because I think a lot of reasons that people use to like legitimize FGM is that it's like beneficial for the body when there are no scientific research or no research that just supports it in general, that it is medical and it is beneficial and it actually causes so much health issues for women later in life, like in terms of like infertility, just problems like going to the toilet, like urinating. It can happen from a really, really young age, and like a lot of women don't realize that that's happened to them until like they go for like smear tests or like pregnancy checkups, and nurses see that that's happened.
oh no way.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And it's just overall health issues, especially mental health issues as well, which is a big component that isn't even addressed.
Trauma, I imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like that's just worth defining, before we get into discussing it.
I would think of like legal terms, not even legal terms, but like the legality of like certain things.
Yeah.
That's what jumps to my head.
I think of like that sort of thing as well as like my right to like freedom of speech, that type of thing.
Knowing your human rights.
Basically. But I don't think of it as in terms of what it means as a woman.
Yeah.
I just think of it as rights in terms of just general human beings, but not in the sense of, especially being a woman of colour. That's probably why it's more important.
I think that's a really key point that you've raised, because I feel like when we talk about like knowing your rights and what like you are entitled to, it's such a general thing, and it's really like it's just never specified.
But actually, when I think about it, I don't know what it means for me personally, what it means to have rights though. Like I know what it means to have human rights, but actually being a woman, I don't know what other rights I have, if there are other rights, or if it's just interpretation.
I don't think you can actually fully separate human rights from women's rights.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Because they're so interlinked. You actually can't, I don't think you can fully separate them. So knowing your human rights gives you an advantage to knowing your personal and feminine rights as well.
With like feminism in the mainstream movement, it's always like beneficial for white women. And there are so many times where in my experience where just knowledge of your rights has like can just affect how I view myself. I think like being a Muslim Arab woman, it's like a lot of the mainstream feminist movement is, you know, viewing us women as like oppressed and victimized, you know, like there's just no sexual liberation at all, whereas like in my own religion and in my own culture there is so much of that. If I knew about my rights, I think I would be more outspoken and say, you know, actually no, we do have a lot of rights and we do know what we're entitled to. And I learned,
I think you're going to say what I wanted to say.
if a husband isn't pleasing her wife,
his wife,
yeah,
you can divorce.
You can leave it.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
think that's fair. That
There's a lot of power in reading scriptures, like more from a female point of view,
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
like a kind of like a feminist analysis of it. I think it's the same for like Hinduism as well, where I don't practice it so much as my parents do, but in my upbringing we never really had conversations about what it means to be a woman in like rights ways or anything like that. It is often like there's a lot of deities that are goddesses, and you've probably seen them like Lakshmi and all these goddesses, and there is kind of this thing of like you should aspire to be like them, but they're gods, you know. But we're human beings, like we can have attributes of that in our day-to-day life, yes, but I think it's either you're like a god, you're seen as either like being godlike because you're so pure and you're so like innocent, or you're just dirt. And there's no middle ground. Or
when it comes to like talking about rights as well, it's always like women's rights, but like what about people that are like non-binary or like people in the trans community? Like it's that's a whole other component, and like sexual gender-based violence affects them in different ways as well, and it's like sometimes in terms of like laws they're not even recognised as humans, like, which is crazy, like to have like a government or institution just deny the fact that you exist. And then what that does is just legitimizes like the violence that they face and like just their exclusion from like the
society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think the conversation now is like it's no longer men and women, like we need to include other people in this conversation as well, because there's a whole other like demographic or population that are going through these things that are just being unrecognised.
And it's not even just for them, so also for us to understand how they're feeling, how they're thinking, and just be educated on sex practices for that any kind of demographic, to be honest. It's just good to be knowledgeable. Like there's nothing wrong with just learning a little something different. Like
it comes into allyship as well.
Definitely.
And on the thing of intersectionality, people always forget ableism. I think it was the ladies that came, the triple cripples. There was a point where they were talking about how sexualized women in wheelchairs are, or like women just that are disabled. So they never actually talk about ableism and how that kind of like hierarchy works, especially when it comes to gender-based violence or sexual violence, because that's another added layer of vulnerability, because some people don't see it as vulnerable, but like people can take advantage of that, and there's never actually any conversations about it at all. I can't even recall a time where they talked about being disabled and the other types of violence that you can get that aren't just like physical. Do you know what I mean? It can also be sexual, it can also be ABCD. But it's quite complicated. Like even the way I'm talking about it now, I don't know how to articulate it because it's so complicated. Because I also don't want to speak on behalf of another group, but at the same time it's like I do acknowledge that these are some of the issues that need to be addressed more. And
I feel like that is just like what you said, you just articulated the way I've been feeling like when I'm talking about like LGBT inclusivity. It's like because like it's none of this is spoken about enough, we also have trouble articulating it, and then because we have trouble articulating it, we get put off to like maybe ask questions or talk about stuff, and then it just reinforces that cycle of like just no one ever talking about anything, and then like it allows like just
perpetuates it.
Exactly. There's so much to deconstruct, guys.
There is a lot.
One day at a time. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
I think that is it. Is it? I feel
like well, that was really fun. I really enjoyed that.
Oh my god, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming. See you again.
Yes.